For 1,460 days, Rita Pewitt has been washing the body of a man who doesn't move. His name is Seo Kyung, and the world believes he is a vegetable. Dragon tattoos snake up his neck, across his collarbone, disappearing beneath the crisp white sheets she changes every morning. She talks to him while she works because the silence in this Seattle mansion feels like drowning, and because no one else bothers. The guards ignore her. The syndicate's men walk past her like she's furniture. She's invisible here, which is exactly why she notices everything. The way the medical supply invoices don't match what's delivered. The way Juan Seo's nephew watches the monitors with satisfaction rather than grief. The way the vitamin drip bags smell faintly chemical, like something that shouldn't be going into a human body. Today, as Rita reaches for the IV line to flush it, Seo Kyung's hand closes around her wrist. Not a tremor, not a muscle spasm, a grip. His eyes, which have stared at nothing for 4 years, lock onto hers with the focus of a predator who's been waiting in tall grass. When he speaks, his voice is a rusted hinge scraping open after years of silence. "Don't flush the line, Rita. They're listening." The room tilts. Rita's nursing instincts scream at her to check his vitals, but her survival instincts scream louder. The camera in the corner is a black eye watching them both. Her hand is still trapped in his, and she can feel his pulse now, strong and deliberate against her skin. This is not a man who's been paralyzed. This is a man who's been performing. "How long?" she whispers. "Since the beginning," Seo says. His jaw barely moves, the words shaped more by breath than muscle. But they're precise, controlled. The vitamins are neuromuscular blockers. Low dose. Just enough to keep me still but awake. Juan wants me to see everything I've lost. Rita's mind races through every medical text she's memorized, every IV bag she's hung, every time she thought she saw his pupils track movement and dismissed it as wishful thinking. "You've been conscious this whole time?" "Every second." His grip loosens slightly, but he doesn't let go. "And you've been the only person in 4 years who treated me like I was still human." The words punch through her chest. She thinks of all the times she's rambled to him about her day, about the disrespect she faces from the guards, about her mother's cookbook she's trying to recreate from memory. All those one-sided conversations weren't one-sided at all. "Why tell me now?" Rita asks. Seo's eyes flick toward the window, where morning fog presses against bulletproof glass. "Because Juan is planning to kill us both. And I need you to help me stand. Welcome to Ruthless Romance Tales, where we bring you the most intense, heart-stopping love stories you've never heard before. These are the tales of forbidden passion, dangerous attraction, and love that changes everything. If you're here for shallow romance, you're in the wrong place. But if you crave stories that will make your pulse race and your heart ache, then you're exactly where you need to be. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications, because trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next. Now let's watch how this paralyzed mafia boss's life changes forever. 4 years ago, Rita Pewitt took a private nursing job that paid 3 times her hospital salary. The contract was bizarre, live-in position, no days off, no contact with the outside world beyond supervised phone calls. The patient was described as a high-profile individual requiring 24-hour care following a traumatic neurological event. She assumed it was a disgraced politician or a billionaire's embarrassing relative. She didn't ask questions because her student loans had interest rates that felt like violence, and the money was enough to pay them off in 2 years. The first time she saw Seo Kyung, she understood why they needed someone who wouldn't talk. He sat in a wheelchair by a floor-to-ceiling window overlooking Puget Sound, dressed in black silk pajamas that probably cost more than her car. His hair was perfectly groomed. His skin had the kind of care that came from daily professional attention, and covering every visible inch of him were tattoos that told stories Rita couldn't read but recognized as markers of power. A dragon coiled around his throat, cherry blossoms bled across his knuckles. When she stepped closer, she saw his eyes were open, staring at the water with the fixed emptiness of someone whose brain had checked out. "Mr. Seo," she said, because the file gave her no first name. "My name is Rita. I'm going to be taking care of you." No response. Not even a blink. The head of security, a man named Day, who looked at her like she was something he'd stepped in, handed her a folder. "His schedule is in here. Feeding times, medication, physical therapy. You deviate from it, you're gone. You talk about what you see here, you're worse than gone. Understand?" Rita understood that she'd just sold herself to people who operated outside the law. But she also understood that turning around and walking out would make her a loose end, and loose ends didn't live long enough to regret their choices. So she stayed. The routine became muscle memory. Wake at 5, check vitals, bed bath, catheter care, Feed him through the peg tube. Range of motion exercises to prevent contractures. Read to him from whatever book she pulled from the mansion's library because the silence made her feel like she was going insane. At first, she chose thrillers and mysteries, then poetry, because it felt less one-sided when the words had rhythm. Then she just started talking, about everything and nothing, because So-kyung was the only person in this prison who didn't look at her with contempt. The other staff treated her like she was invisible. The cook never made eye contact. The housekeepers whispered in Korean when she passed. Dae watched her with the constant evaluation of someone calculating whether she was worth the bullet. But Seo's room became a strange sanctuary. He couldn't judge her, couldn't dismiss her, couldn't make her feel small. So she told him things she'd never told anyone. About growing up in Oakland as the daughter of a nurse who died from working too hard. About her ex-boyfriend who'd laughed when she said she wanted to specialize in neurology. About the way hospital administrators looked through her when she raised concerns about patient care. "You know what's funny?" Rita said one night, 6 months into the job, as she adjusted his pillows. "You're the best listener I've ever met. Maybe it's because you can't interrupt me with your opinions." She laughed at her own joke, brittle and alone in the dim room. What she didn't know was that Seo-kyung had heard every word, had catalogued every detail, had been using her voice as the thread that kept him from disappearing entirely into the chemical fog Hwan kept him trapped in. And now, as Rita stands frozen with his hand around her wrist and his warning echoing in her ears, she realizes that the man she's been caring for has been caring for her right back, watching her, learning her, waiting for the moment when he could trust her with the truth. "They're planning to stage an electrical fire tonight," Seo says, his voice gaining strength with each word, like a muscle remembering how to work. "The whole medical wing will burn. You'll be inside it." Rita's mouth goes dry. "How do you know?" "Because Hwan made the arrangements on a tablet while standing 3 feet from me yesterday. He thinks I'm a statue." Seo's lips curl into something that might be a smile if it weren't so feral. "He has no idea that I've been stealing his access codes for 2 years, that I've been rerouting funds, that the empire he thinks he controls is already half mine again." "How?" Rita breathes. Seo's eyes flick toward the medical equipment beside his bed, the telemetry unit with its screen full of supposedly meaningless data. "The same way I'm talking to you right now. Very, very carefully." Rita's gaze follows his to the telemetry monitor, the one she checks 40 times a day out of habit, watching the steady green line of his heartbeat. The screen looks exactly as it always does. Vital signs, oxygen saturation. Nothing unusual, nothing that would suggest the man it's monitoring has been orchestrating a silent war from a wheelchair. "I don't understand," she says. But even as the words leave her mouth, she's moving closer to the screen, her nursing training kicking in despite the impossibility of what he's suggesting. "The eye-tracking software," Seo says, and his voice is stronger now, each word less painful than the last. "It's built into the diagnostic interface. Standard accessibility feature for patients with limited mobility. Hwan had it installed 3 years ago. He thought it would be amusing to give me a way to watch television." Rita's fingers hover over the screen, not quite touching. "But this monitors your heart rate, your breathing, on the surface." Seo's grip on her wrist shifts, becomes almost gentle, but underneath it's running a custom operating system I built before Hwan ever put me in this chair. I saw the betrayal coming 6 months early. I just didn't move fast enough. His jaw tightens. I prepared for everything except my own nephew using chemical torture instead of a bullet. The weight of what he's saying crashes into Rita like a wave. 4 years of watching this man, believing him trapped in his own body, and he's been awake for every second, every indignity, every moment of helplessness. "The scans showed no brain activity," she whispers, "because I know how to slow my heart rate to near-death levels on command. Meditation technique I learned in Tokyo." His eyes meet hers, and there's something raw in them now, something that's been buried under 4 years of forced stillness. The scans only measure what they can see. They can't measure will. Rita pulls her hand free, not because she's afraid, but because she needs to think. Her mind races through everything she's observed, everything that didn't add up, the way his muscle tone never fully deteriorated despite the supposed paralysis. The expensive physical therapy equipment that arrived 6 months ago, equipment Hwan claimed was for maintaining dignity, but that Rita recognized as neuromuscular stimulation devices. The slight variations in his pupil dilation that she'd attributed to involuntary nerve responses. "You've been exercising," she says slowly, "at night. That's why you wanted the privacy screens installed, why you insisted the night nurse be dismissed." Seo almost smiles. "You paid attention." "It's my job to pay attention." Rita turns back to him, and something shifts in her chest, something that feels dangerously close to admiration. What else have you been doing? Watching, listening. Juan holds all his sensitive meetings in this room because he thinks I'm decoration. Seo's fingers drum once against the wheelchair's armrest, a gesture that seems to cause him significant effort. I know where every account is hidden, every deal he's made, every ally he thinks he's secured. I've been systematically transferring assets back to encrypted holdings for 18 months. And he hasn't noticed? He's arrogant. He sees what he wants to see. Seo's expression darkens. But 3 days ago, something changed. His calls became urgent, paranoid. Someone inside the organization told him there's been unusual account activity. He's not stupid enough to think it's coincidence. Rita's pulse kicks up. That's why the fire. He's eliminating evidence. And witnesses. Seo's eyes lock onto hers with an intensity that makes her skin prickle. You've seen too much, Rita. You've been in this room for every conversation, every transaction. It doesn't matter that they think you're invisible. Dead women don't talk. The casual way he says it, like her death is already scheduled, sends ice down her spine. But underneath the fear is something else. Anger. She survived too much to die in a fire staged by a man who never once looked her in the face. So what do? Rita asks, and she's surprised by how steady her voice sounds. Seo's expression shifts into something sharp, something that reminds her he didn't become one of Asia's most dangerous men by accident. We do what Juan would never expect from a paralyzed man and his invisible nurse. He pauses. We disappear. Rita's first instinct is to laugh, but the sound dies in her throat when she sees Seo's face. He's serious. You can barely grip my wrist, she says. How exactly do you plan to walk out of here? I don't. Seo releases the wheelchair's armrest and flexes his fingers, slow and deliberate. The movement is stiff, painful to watch, but it's real. 6 months ago, you switched my medication. The vitamins. Rita's breath catches. She thought she'd been so careful, mixing saline in the supply closet during her 3 a.m. rounds, replacing the paralytic drip bags with clean IV fluid. How did you know? Because I started feeling my toes again. Something flickers across Seo's face that might be gratitude or might be something more dangerous. I thought I was hallucinating at first. 4 years of chemical imprisonment will make you doubt your own nervous system. But then you started the muscle stimulation therapy. The electrodes at night. Heat rises in Rita's cheeks. You were awake for that? Every session. His voice drops lower. Do you know what it's like to feel someone fight for your body when you've been turned into a breathing corpse? You didn't ask permission. Didn't wait for orders. You just did it because you thought it was right. The way he's looking at her makes Rita's skin feel too tight. This isn't gratitude. This is something raw, more complicated. She clears her throat. Your muscles would have atrophied completely without intervention. It's basic care protocol. Nothing about what you did was protocol, Rita. So shifts in the wheelchair, and she can see the effort it costs him. Protocol would have been following Juan's orders, keeping me sedated, keeping me helpless. Instead, you committed treason against a crime syndicate every night for 6 months. I committed nursing. Rita shoots back, but her voice wavers. There's a difference. Not in this house. Seo's expression hardens. Which is why when that fire starts at midnight, Juan expects 2 bodies, the paralyzed boss and his naive caretaker. What he's going to find is an empty room and a very large problem. Rita crosses her arms. You still haven't explained how we're getting out. The security system tracks every exit. The guards change shifts every 4 hours. Even if you could walk, which you can't, we'd be spotted before we reach the gate. I can't walk. Seo agrees. But I can stand. For approximately 90 seconds before my legs give out. Which is exactly long enough. Long enough for what? Seo tilts his head toward the window, the one that faces Puget Sound. Rain streaks down the bulletproof glass in the dim morning light. Do you know why Juan chose this room for me? The view? Rita's sarcasm is automatic, defensive. The drop. Seo's eyes are steady on hers, 40 feet straight down into water, deep water, cold water. The kind that would kill most people from shock before they drowned. He pauses. But I grew up diving in the East Sea in winter, and you grew up swimming in the San Francisco Bay. Rita's stomach drops. You want us to jump out a 4th-story window. I want us to survive. Seo's voice is iron. The window isn't bulletproof because Juan's paranoid about external threats. It's bulletproof because he's paranoid about me, but bulletproof glass still breaks if you know where to hit it. And I've had 4 years to study every flaw in this room's construction. This is insane, Rita breathes. But she's already calculating. Water temperature, impact velocity, survival odds. Her mind runs through every emergency medicine scenario she's trained for, and none of them covered escaping a Mafia execution by diving into Puget Sound in January. Insane is staying here and burning. Sio's hand reaches out, palm up, an invitation. I need you, Rita. Not just to help me stand. I need you to believe we can do this. Rita stares at his outstretched hand. 4 years of one-sided conversations. 4 years of being invisible. 4 years of watching a man waste away. Except he wasn't wasting. He was waiting. For her. For this moment. For someone to finally see him as something other than a trophy or a corpse. She takes his hand. His fingers close around hers. Trembling but strong. We have 14 hours, Seo says. And a lot of work to do. The first thing Rita does is check the camera. She's mapped its blind spots over 4 years of tedious observation, the way its rotation pauses for exactly 3 seconds in the northeast corner before panning back. That 3-second window is where she's been administering Sio's therapy, where she's whispered complaints about the guards, where she's existed in the only privacy this gilded cage allows. They'll review the footage if we disappear, Rita says, moving to adjust Sio's pillows. A gesture so routine the guards won't think twice about it. They'll see everything. No, they won't. Seo's voice is barely audible. I corrupted the storage system 18 months ago. Every recording overwrites itself after 72 hours. Juan was supposed to upgrade to cloud backup, but he kept delaying because he didn't want the board accessing his personal footage. A ghost of satisfaction crosses his face. Arrogance is a terminal disease. Rita's hand's still on the pillow. You've been planning this for 18 months? I've been planning this since the day Juan put the first paralytic in my veins. Seo shifts his weight, testing his core strength. The movement is minute, nearly invisible. But Rita sees the strain in his neck muscles. The window, the water, the escape route. I had it all mapped out. What I didn't have was someone I could trust to help me execute it. And you trust me? The question comes out smaller than Rita intends. Seo's eyes find hers, and there's something in them that makes her chest tighten. You've had 100 opportunities to earn favor with Juan by reporting my recovery. You could have told him about the medication switch, about the therapy, about the fact that my pupil responses are too controlled to be involuntary. He pauses. Instead, you protected me, even though you had no reason to believe I'd ever wake up to thank you for it. Rita's throat feels thick. She wants to say she did it because it was right, because her nursing oath meant something, because she couldn't stand watching another human being suffer. But the truth is more complicated than that. Somewhere in the 4 years of one-sided conversations and silent companionship, Seo Kyung stopped being a patient and became something else. Someone else. What do I need to do? She asks instead. Seo glances toward the window, calculating. The glass is reinforced, but it's only anchored at 4 points. There's a hairline fracture in the lower right corner from settling. I've watched it spread for 3 years. If we hit it with enough focused force, the whole panel will give. With what? Your wheelchair? Rita's skepticism is automatic. With the IV pole. Solid steel, weighted base. 12 pounds of concentrated trauma. Seo's voice takes on the quality of a tactician laying out a battlefield strategy. But we can't just smash it. The noise will bring guards within 30 seconds. We need to weaken it first. Create a stress pattern that'll shatter on impact. Rita's mind races. The window gets cleaned every Tuesday. That's tomorrow. If I request cleaning supplies tonight, say there's a smudge affecting your view, I can access the glass without suspicion. What will you use? Liquid glass etcher. We use it in hospitals to mark equipment. It's subtle, nearly invisible, but it eats through the surface layer. Rita's already mentally cataloging the supply closet inventory. I can create a fracture pattern that'll compromise the structural integrity without anyone noticing. Seo studies her with something that looks like reassessment, like he's seeing her properly for the first time. You've done this before. I've thought about it before, Rita corrects. Every woman who's been invisible learns to map her exits. The weight of that statement hangs between them. Seo's jaw tightens, and Rita wonders what he's thinking. This man who built an empire on being seen, on being feared. Does he understand what it's like to move through the world as a ghost? Does he know that invisibility isn't power, it's survival? After the window, Seo continues, his voice carefully neutral. We'll have approximately 15 seconds before the guards respond to the alarm. The water is 43 degrees this time of year. Hypothermia onset begins at 10 minutes. There's a service dock 300 yards south. I have supplies hidden there. Dry clothes, cash, documentation. How did you hide supplies at a dock when you haven't left this room in 4 years? I didn't. My contact did. Seo's expression darkens. The only person from my organization who never stopped looking for proof I was alive. He's been maintaining the drop site for 3 years on the chance I'd eventually make contact. Rita processes this. You have allies. I have one ally. Everyone else believes I'm already dead, or wishes I was. Seo's fingers drum against the wheelchair's arm. That same gesture of barely contained energy, which is exactly why they won't see this coming. The door handle rattles. Rita's entire body goes rigid. Breakfast, calls a voice from the hallway. One of the kitchen staff. Rita moves smoothly, positioning herself between Seo and the door, blocking any angle that might reveal his alert posture. Leave it outside, she calls back, injecting just enough irritation into her voice. He's resting. Footsteps retreat. A tray scrapes against the floor. When the hallway falls silent again, Rita releases a breath she didn't know she was holding. Seo's hand finds her wrist again, gentle this time, grounding. 14 hours, he repeats. Can you do this? Rita thinks about the fire, about Juan's casual cruelty, about 4 years of being furniture in a house built on violence, about the way Seo's voice sounds now that he's using it to fight instead of to suffer. Yes, she says. I can do this. Rita retrieves the breakfast tray from the hallway, her movements automatic, practiced. Oatmeal with brown sugar, green tea, a single orange, peeled and segmented. The kitchen staff learned years ago that she prefers to feed Seo herself, rather than let them intrude on what she claimed was his therapeutic routine. Really, it was just the only way to maintain the illusion of his helplessness while having actual conversations. She sets the tray on the medical table and wheels it close. We need to talk about what happens after the water, she says, keeping her voice low and steady. There's a wetsuit in the dock box. One-size-fits-all design. Not ideal, but it'll keep you from going into shock. Seo's eyes track her movements as she prepares the feeding syringe, muscle memory taking over. The drive north to the safe house is 90 minutes. My contact will have the heat running. Your contact has a name? Yoon. Seo's expression softens fractionally. My mother's brother. He got out of the organization 20 years ago, moved to Bellingham, opened a restaurant. Juan doesn't know he exists because my mother buried that connection before she died. A pause. He's the only family I have left that doesn't want me dead. Rita absorbs this. Uncle. Family. The word feels almost foreign in this house where blood ties are just another weapon. Will he help me too? He'll help anyone I ask him to help. Seo meets her eyes. But I need you to understand something, Rita. After tonight, you can't come back. Not to this city, not to your apartment, not to anyone you knew before you took this job. Juan will hunt you, not because you matter to him, but because letting you live would make him look weak. The words should terrify her. Instead, Rita feels a strange sense of relief, like a door she's been pushing against for years has finally opened. I don't have anyone to come back to, she says quietly. My mom's been gone for 6 years. I don't talk to my dad. The friends I had in nursing school stopped calling when I took this job and dropped off the grid. She loads the feeding tube with oatmeal, though they both know he doesn't need it anymore. This place has already erased me. At least now I'll be erased on my own terms. Seo's hand moves to cover hers where it rests on the syringe. The gesture is brief, almost tentative, but it sends heat through her palm. You won't be erased. You'll be free. The word hangs between them, heavy with promise and impossibility. Rita wants to believe him. Wants to believe that jumping out of a 4th-story window into freezing water is the beginning of something instead of the end. But she spent too many years in survival mode to trust hope without examining it first. What about you? She asks. Juan took your empire. Even if we escape, what do you have left? Enough. Seo's voice hardens into something sharp and certain. I've been moving assets for 18 months. Offshore accounts, real estate holdings, investment portfolios that Juan never knew existed. He inherited the visible empire, the one built on territory and reputation. I kept the invisible one, the one built on money and information. His fingers tighten briefly on hers before letting go. He thinks he won because he took the throne. He doesn't realize I took the treasury. Rita processes this, her respect for his strategic mind deepening. So this isn't just survival, this is revenge. No. Seo's eyes are steady, unflinching. Revenge is making him suffer. What I'm doing is making him irrelevant. By the time he realizes what I've taken, he'll be too broke and too humiliated to come after us. The other families will tear him apart for his incompetence. A pause. That's a fate worse than anything I could do to him myself. The cold calculation in his voice should disturb her. Instead, Rita finds it oddly comforting. This isn't a man driven by rage or ego. This is a man who's turned 4 years of forced stillness into a weapon of patience. She understands that kind of survival, that kind of endurance. I need to get the glass etcher, Rita says, glancing at the wall clock. 9 a.m. 15 hours until midnight. The supply closet is monitored, but I can take inventory as cover. Say I'm restocking the medical cart. Take the long route, CO advises. Past Juan's office. If he's in a meeting, you'll hear it. I need to know who he's talking to today. Rita nods, but hesitates at the door. What if something goes wrong? What if the window doesn't break? Or the guards are faster than we think? Or then we die trying to be free instead of living as prisoners? Seo's voice is matter-of-fact, devoid of dramatics. I've made peace with that outcome. Have you? Rita thinks about the last 4 years. About being invisible, being dismissed, being trapped in a routine that ground away at her sense of self, until some days she couldn't remember who she used to be. About the moment this morning when CO grabbed her wrist and reminded her that she was still alive, still capable of choice, still dangerous in ways that no one in this house had bothered to notice. Yes, she says, I have. She opens the door and steps into the hallway, leaving So alone with his thoughts and his plans. Neither of them acknowledges what they both know, that tonight, one way or another, everything changes. The hallway is empty, which is both a blessing and a warning. Rita learned early that silence in this house means someone is listening. She keeps her footsteps measured, her breathing even, playing the role she's perfected over 4 years, the dutiful nurse who exists only to serve. The supply closet is on the 2nd floor, which means passing Juan's office. Rita takes the main staircase instead of the service stairs, the route any normal staff member would use. The wood creaks under her feet, a sound she's memorized down to which steps sing and which stay silent. As she reaches the 2nd floor landing, voices drift through Juan's partially open door. Rita slows, adjusting her scrub top as if it's caught on something, buying herself seconds to listen. Can't keep bleeding money into a dead man's care. That's Juan, irritation sharp in his tone. 4 years is long enough to prove a point. The families expect you to show respect. A second voice, older, measured. Rita recognizes it as Kang, one of the organization's senior advisors. Your uncle built this empire. Keeping him comfortable honors that legacy. My uncle is a vegetable collecting dust. Juan's chair scrapes against the floor. And I'm done paying for sentiment. The fire tonight will look like an electrical fault. Old wiring in the medical wing. Tragic but unavoidable. Rita's pulse spikes, but she forces herself to keep moving, to not react. She continues past the office toward the supply closet, her mind racing. Juan isn't just planning to kill them. He's already positioned the narrative, already decided how the story will be told. The realization settles in her stomach like lead. The supply closet is small, windowless, organized with the kind of precision that comes from years of inventory control. Rita scans the shelves until she finds what she needs. A bottle labeled, glass cleaner, industrial strength. The label is technically accurate. The contents include hydrofluoric acid in a concentration meant for etching, not cleaning. She pockets it along with a box of medical gloves and a handful of alcohol prep pads for cover. On her way back, she takes the service stairs, the ones that run along the exterior wall where sound doesn't carry as well. She needs time to think, to process what she's heard, to steady the adrenaline that's making her hands shake. Halfway down, she nearly collides with Day. The head of security materializes around the corner like a bad omen, his expression flat and assessing. Rita stumbles back, clutching her supplies to her chest in a gesture that looks startled but hides the glass etcher. Watch where you're going, Day says, but his eyes are scanning her, cataloging everything she's carrying. Sorry, I was just restocking. Rita's voice comes out breathless, which works in her favor. Mr. CO's room needs. I don't care what he needs. Day steps closer, and Rita can smell cigarette smoke on his clothes. You spending a lot of time in there? It's my job to spend time in there. Your job is to keep him alive. Day's eyes are cold. Nothing more. You understand? Rita nods, keeping her gaze down, submissive. It's a role she's played so many times it's almost comfortable. Almost. Good. Day moves past her, his shoulder brushing hers hard enough to be a warning. Make sure you're gone by 8 tonight. Staff dinner is mandatory. Boss's orders. Rita's mind clicks into place. 8 p.m. 4 hours before the fire. Juan wants everyone accounted for. Alibis established. Everyone except her and CO, who'll be exactly where they're supposed to be when the wiring fails. I'll be there, Rita says to Day's retreating back. She doesn't move until his footsteps fade completely. Then she leans against the wall, pressing her forehead to the cool plaster, forcing herself to breathe. The glass etcher feels heavy in her pocket, heavier with the weight of what it represents. One chance. One window. One jump between prison and freedom. When she returns to Seo's room, he's exactly where she left him, facing the window like he has for 4 years. But his posture is different now, alert in a way that no one who isn't looking for it would notice. "Well?" he asks without turning. Rita locks the door and moves to the camera's blind spot, pulling out the bottle. Juan's moved the timeline. The fire is set for midnight, but he's ordering all staff to dinner at 8. He wants us isolated. Expected. Seo's reflection in the window is sharp, focused. What else? Day is suspicious. Not of you, but of me. Of the time I spend in here. Rita sets the bottle on the medical cart, her hands steadier now that she's moving with purpose. If he decides to check on me during dinner, he won't. So finally turns to face her. Day is paranoid, but he's also lazy. If Juan says you'll be at dinner, Day will assume you're at dinner. He's not paid to think. Rita wants to believe that. Wants to believe they've accounted for every variable, every potential failure point. But 4 years of living in this house has taught her that the greatest danger is always the thing you didn't see coming. "We need to prep the window now," she says, "before the cleaning crew comes tomorrow. If they notice the etching, then we go tonight instead of midnight." Seo's voice is calm, final. "We adapt. That's how we survive." Rita pulls on the medical gloves, uncaps the bottle, and approaches the window. The glass is cold under her fingers, smooth except for that hairline fracture in the lower right corner that Seo has been watching for 3 years. She wets a prep pad with the etching solution and begins to trace careful lines, following the stress patterns in the glass, encouraging it to want to break. Behind her, Seo watches in silence. And for the first time in 4 years, Rita doesn't feel invisible at all. The etching takes 20 minutes. Rita works with the focused precision of someone who understands that one mistake could shatter their only chance at survival. The acid eats into the glass in thin, nearly invisible lines, creating a spiderweb pattern that follows the natural stress fractures Seo identified. When she's finished, the window looks exactly as it did before, but now it's fragile as a promise. Rita caps the bottle and strips off her gloves, disposing of them in the medical waste bin where no one will question their presence. Her hands are trembling slightly, adrenaline and fear mixing into something that feels dangerously close to hope. "It's done," she says, turning to face Seo. "The glass will hold until we need it to break." Seo nods, but his attention has shifted to something else. His eyes are distant, calculating. "The dinner at 8 creates a problem. You said Day wouldn't check on me. He won't. But your absence will be noticed if you don't show up at all." Seo's fingers tap against the wheelchair's armrest. That gesture of barely contained thought. "You need to make an appearance. 15 minutes. Just long enough to be seen and dismissed." Rita's stomach tightens. That puts us on an even tighter timeline. If dinner starts at 8 and I need to be back here by 8:45, Seo interrupts. "That gives you time to eat, complain about being tired, and leave without raising suspicion. The fire is set for midnight. We leave at 11:30, while the guards are changing shifts, and the house is at its quietest." The plan makes sense, but Rita can feel the margins for error narrowing with each new complication. "What do I say if someone asks why I'm leaving early? Tell them I had a seizure. That you need to monitor me." Seo's expression is grim. It's happened before. Twice in the last year. Juan had the episodes documented as part of my ongoing deterioration. No one will question it. Rita absorbs this new piece of information, another layer of suffering she hadn't known about. Were they real seizures? Does it matter? Seo's voice is carefully neutral, but Rita sees something flicker behind his eyes. Pain, maybe. Or just exhaustion from carrying 4 years of trauma in a body he couldn't control. "It matters to me," Rita says quietly. Seo looks at her for a long moment, and the air between them feels suddenly heavier, charged with something neither of them has named yet. "The first one was real," he finally admits. "Withdrawal symptom from the paralytics. My body trying to remember how to regulate its own nervous system. The second one I faked because I needed Juan to think I was getting worse, not better. The fact that he can distinguish between real and performed suffering, that he's been managing his own medical crisis while pretending to be unconscious, strikes Rita with renewed respect and something deeper. Something that feels like the beginning of understanding who this man really is beneath the reputation and the tattoos and the 4 years of forced silence. "I should have been there," she says. "I should have. You were there." Seo's voice cuts through her guilt like a blade. "You kept me alive. Everything else is just details." The words settle between them, heavy with unspoken meaning. Rita wants to argue, to insist that she should have done more, noticed more, fought harder against the people who were torturing him. But the truth is, she did what she could with what she knew. And Seo isn't asking for her apology. He's asking for her partnership. 11:30. Rita repeats, committing the timeline to memory. I'll come back from dinner. Tell the guards you had an episode. Lock the door for privacy. That gives us the cover we need. And then we break the window, jump into 40-degree water, and hope my uncle is exactly where he said he'd be. Seo says it without irony, without false bravado. Just facts laid bare. When did you last talk to your uncle? 3 months ago. He has a secure line that routes through 6 different servers. I can access it through the telemetry system. Seo's eyes drift back to the monitor, that innocent-looking piece of medical equipment that's been his lifeline to the outside world. I told him if he didn't hear from me by the end of January, I was either dead or free. Either way, he should clear out the dock and disappear. It's January 7th. I know. Seo's jaw tightens, which means we're out of time for contingency plans. Tonight is the last chance. For both of us. The finality of it crashes into Rita like a wave. No backup plan. No second attempt. Just one window. One jump. One desperate gamble that their combined will to survive is stronger than Juan's will to bury them. Rita crosses the room and kneels beside Seo's wheelchair, bringing herself to eye level with him. This close, she can see the fine lines around his eyes, the shadows that come from years of sleeplessness, the small scar above his left eyebrow that she's wondered about 100 times but never asked. This close, he's not a mafia boss, or a patient, or a strategy. He's just a man who's been waiting 4 years to breathe freely. We're going to make it, she says, and she needs to believe it more than she needs air. Seo's hand comes up, slowly, shakily, and touches her cheek. His palm is warm, calloused, real. I know, he says, because you're with me. And for the first time since this impossible day began, Rita lets herself feel it. The terrifying, exhilarating possibility that freedom isn't just something they're running toward, it's something they're building together. At 7:45, Rita changes into clean scrubs and pulls her hair back into a neat ponytail. The mirror in Seo's bathroom shows her a woman who looks exactly like she did this morning, but everything underneath has changed. She's no longer the invisible nurse going through motions. She's a co-conspirator, an accomplice, a woman who's chosen her side. Remember, Seo says from the other room, his voice carrying through the open door. You're exhausted, worried about me. You want to eat quickly and get back to your patient. I am worried about you, Rita calls back. And it's not a lie. She finds him attempting something she's never seen before. He's gripping the wheelchair's armrests, trying to shift his weight forward. The effort costs him. Sweat beads on his forehead, and his arms shake with the strain. But he manages to lean forward 3 inches before settling back. Don't, Rita says, moving quickly to his side. You'll exhaust yourself before we even get to the window. I need to know my limits. Seo's breathing is labored. 90 seconds, you said. I have to be able to stand for 90 seconds. Right now, I can barely lean forward for 5. Rita kneels beside him again, her hands instinctively checking his pulse, elevated but steady. You've been drugged for 4 years. Your body needs time to remember what strength feels like. We don't have time. Seo's frustration bleeds through his careful control. What if I can't do it, Rita? What if I get to the window and my legs give out before we even break the glass? It's the first moment of doubt she's heard from him, and it makes him somehow more real, more human. Rita takes his hand, feeling the tremor in his fingers. Then I'll hold you up. We do this together, remember? You're not alone anymore. Seo's eyes meet hers, and something passes between them that has nothing to do with escape plans or survival strategies. It's recognition. The kind that comes when 2 people who've been alone for too long suddenly realize they don't have to be. Go to dinner, he says quietly. I'll be here when you get back. Rita squeezes his hand once before letting go. The walk to the dining room feels longer than usual, each step carrying her closer to a performance she's not sure she can pull off. The house smells like roasted meat and garlic. Scents that would normally make her stomach growl, but now just make her nauseous. The staff dining room is smaller than the formal spaces, tucked behind the kitchen where the help can eat without disturbing the aesthetics of the house. 12 people are already seated when Rita arrives. Kitchen staff, housekeepers, groundskeepers. Day sits at the head of the table like a warden overseeing his prisoners. Rita takes an empty seat near the middle, keeping her eyes down, her posture submissive. A plate appears in front of her. Beef, rice, vegetables that look like they were arranged by someone who cares about presentation. She picks up her fork. How's the vegetable doing? One of the housekeepers, A woman named Sun asks. There's no malice in the question, just casual cruelty born from years of dehumanizing the man upstairs. The same, Rita answers, forcing herself to take a bite. The food turns to ash in her mouth. Always the same. Must be boring, Sun continues. Spending all day with someone who doesn't even know you're there. Rita looks up, meets the woman's eyes. Sometimes the people who can't speak are the ones who see the most. The table goes quiet. It's the most defiant thing Rita has said in 4 years, and she watches comprehension flicker across several faces. Not understanding, exactly, but awareness that something about the docile nurse has shifted. Day's fork pauses halfway to his mouth. Something you want to share with the group, Rita? No, sir. Rita drops her gaze back to her plate. Just tired. Long day. Then eat faster and get back to your patient. Day's voice is flat, dismissive. We don't need your philosophy. Rita finishes her meal in silence. Each bite mechanical. Counted. 12 minutes. That's all she can manage before standing, excusing herself with a mumbled thanks that no one acknowledges. As she leaves, she feels Day's eyes following her, calculating, and she wonders if she's just made a fatal mistake. The walk back to Seo's room feels like moving through water. Her heart pounds against her ribs. The hallway is empty, the house settling into its evening rhythm. She reaches the door, her hand on the knob, and pauses. This is it. After this moment, there's no going back. No pretending, no safety in invisibility. Rita opens the door. Seo is exactly where she left him, but his posture has changed. He's sitting straighter, his hands grip tight on the armrests, and when he sees her, something like relief washes over his face. 11:30, Rita says, locking the door behind her. 3 hours. 3 hours. Seo echoes. And then we jump. The hours crawl by like years. Rita spends them preparing for variables she can't control. Checking Seo's muscle response, testing his grip strength, running through the escape sequence until they both have it memorized. At 11:15, she helps him into the thermal compression clothing she found buried in the medical supplies. Garments designed to prevent hypothermia in trauma patients. It's not a wetsuit, but it's better than nothing. Can you feel your legs? Rita asks, kneeling to secure the fastenings. Enough. Seo's jaw is set, determined. I can feel enough. At 11:25, Rita kills the lights except for one small lamp. She positions the IV pole near the window, angling it like a battering ram. Her hands are steady now, adrenaline sharpening everything into crystalline focus. At 11:28, footsteps echo in the hallway. They both freeze. Rita's eyes fly to Seo's, and she sees her own fear reflected back. The footsteps slow. Stop. Right outside the door. A knock. Rita? You in there? Day. Rita's mind races. She moves to the door but doesn't open it, speaking through the wood. Yes, Mr. Seo had another episode. I'm monitoring him. Open the door. He needs rest. Can this wait until morning? No. Day's voice hardens. Open it now, or I'm coming in anyway. Rita looks back at Seo. His face is stone, but she sees the calculation in his eyes. If Day enters, he'll see everything. Seo's alert posture, the IV pole positioned wrong, Rita's own tension. The fire is set for 30 minutes from now. They're out of time. Seo mouths 2 words. Trust me. Rita unlocks the door and steps back. Day enters, his hand resting casually on the gun at his hip. His eyes scan the room, landing on Seo, who sits facing the window in perfect stillness, head lolled slightly to one side. The performance is flawless. He looks fine to me, Day says. The seizure passed. I'm just making sure there's no secondary. Day's radio crackles. A voice cuts through, urgent and crackling with static. Fire in the West Wing. Electrical, spreading fast. Day's face goes white. That's not supposed to. He cuts himself off, but Rita hears it. The fire started early. Someone miscalculated, or the wiring was worse than Juan thought, or the universe finally decided to give them one piece of luck. Go. Day barks at Rita. Emergency evacuation protocol. Now. He's already running, leaving the door wide open. Rita hears shouting, alarms, chaos spreading through the house like the fire itself. She turns to Seo. Now, he says. Rita grabs the IV pole. Seo grips the wheelchair's armrests and, with a sound that's half gasp and half growl, pushes himself to standing. His legs shake violently, threatening to give out, but he locks his knees and reaches for her. Rita swings the pole. The etched glass shatters on impact, exploding outward into the night with a sound that's lost in the commotion of the fire. Cold air rushes in, carrying the smell of smoke and salt water. Together, Seo says, and his hand finds hers. They climb onto the window ledge, and for one suspended moment, Rita sees everything. The dark water below, the burning house behind them, Seo's profile against the orange glow of the fire. His face is set with something beyond determination. It's liberation. On 3, Rita says. 1. Seo's fingers tighten on hers. 2. They don't wait for 3. They jump. The fall lasts forever and no time at all. The water hits like a fist, punching the air from Rita's lungs, stealing her breath and nearly her consciousness. Cold doesn't describe it. It's pain made liquid, needles made of ice. But Seo's hand is still in hers, pulling her up, pulling her forward, and she kicks hard, breaking the surface just as her lungs scream for air. They swim. Rita doesn't know how long. Her body moves on pure survival instinct, following Seo's weak but steady strokes toward the dark shape of the dock. When her feet finally touch the rocky bottom, she's crying and doesn't know when she started. They collapse on the dock, gasping, shaking, alive. Behind them, the mansion burns like a funeral pyre for the life they're leaving behind. Seo lies on his back, chest heaving, and when he laughs, it's the most genuine sound Rita has ever heard. A truck engine rumbles in the distance. Headlights cut through the darkness. Uncle Yoon, right on time. Rita helps Seo sit up, and he looks at her with wonder, like he's seeing her for the first time. Maybe he is. Maybe they're both new people now, forged in fire and ice, and the impossible choice to save each other. We made it, Rita whispers. Seo reaches up, his cold hand cupping her face. We did. And then, because words aren't enough, because they've both been silent for too long, he kisses her. It's desperate and gentle, tasting of salt water and smoke and freedom. When they break apart, Rita is still crying, but now she's smiling too. What happens now? Seo looks toward the truck, toward the future they just claimed. Now we disappear, together, and for the first time in 4 years, neither of them is invisible anymore. The strongest steel is forged in the hottest fire, but the truest freedom is built in the quiet moments between two people who refuse to let each other fall. Unknown, if this story touched your heart, left you breathless, or made you believe in second chances, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss another tale of forbidden love, dangerous passion, and the kind of courage that changes everything. Share this story with someone who needs to remember that even in the darkest cages, hope can survive if you're willing to fight for it. Drop a comment telling me what you felt, what surprised you, what moment made your heart race. And remember, the best love stories aren't the easy ones, they're the ones where two broken people decide they're stronger together than they ever were apart. Until next time, keep believing in ruthless romance.